Weird.
No!
Also, speaking of the source material, many people were asking online, how did we get the license for it? Like, I thought that Disney owned the IP. And yes, Disney has made Snow White movies. They're making their second right now, but they did not make the
Rachel Zegler is on the verge of going broke. And to make matters worse, she just found out that Brett Cooper is about to give her some serious competition as Snow White. Her reaction? Priceless. Already frustrated with the backlash from Snow White fans, this news only added fuel to the fire. Brett Cooper, who presents a more respectful and beloved version of Snow White, is quickly gaining public attention. Meanwhile, Zegler continues to lash out, accusing fans of various offensive and profane things. From the start, Zegler's casting as Snow White sparked major backlash, and if you ask her, it all boils down to bigotry. She hasn't held back in calling it out, claiming that the criticism stems from people not being able to accept a Colombian actress in the role. But according to Zegler, in this new remake, the name Snow White has nothing to do with her appearance. Instead, it's tied to her surviving a harsh snowstorm as a baby, a drastic shift from the classic fairy tale, intro, but that's not where the controversy stops. Zegler made it very clear that the new Snow White won't be the same lovesick girl waiting for Prince Charming to sweep her off her feet. Nope. This version of Snow White is all about strength, independence, and standing up for herself. She even threw shade at the original 1937 Disney prince, calling him a guy who literally stalks Snow White. In this remake, there's no waiting around for true love. Instead, Snow White dreams of becoming a leader, just like her late father told her she could be if she remained fearless, fair, brave, and true. According to Zegler, this is an empowering story for young audiences who want to see themselves in the character. From day one, Zegler's casting sparked major backlash, with critics arguing that Snow White should stay true to her original description: skin, as white as snow. But for Zegler, this criticism highlights a deeper issue of representation in Hollywood. She insists her version of Snow White is not defined by her complexion, but by her resilience and strength. Disney's live-action remake attempts to reinterpret the classic tale for a modern audience. Instead of being named for her fair skin, this Snow White gets her name from surviving a snowstorm as a baby, symbolizing her inner strength rather than her appearance. But now, the story has taken a major plot twist. For the first time ever, Snow White has competition, and it's making Disney nervous. Enter Brett Cooper, The Daily Wire, and a brand new adaptation that seems to be capitalizing on the backlash against Disney. The Daily Wire, known for its conservative stance, is producing its own version of Snow White, one that directly challenges Disney's agenda-driven storytelling. Titled Snow White and the Evil Queen, Cooper's version promises a faithful adaptation of the original Brothers Grimm fairy tale, something that many fans believe Disney has abandoned. Audiences frustrated with Disney's controversial reimagining are rallying behind this alternative, eager for a return to timeless values instead of forced modern narratives. Intro. When Cooper's Snow White promo photo hit the internet, the reaction was instant. Brett Cooper's Snow White has the classic look: fair skin, traditional dress, and an expression of innocence that fans immediately recognized as true to the original character. It didn't take long for audiences to point out the obvious. At least Brett Cooper actually looks like Snow White. Message fans threw shade at Zegler's casting, making it very clear which version of Snow White they felt captured the character best. This overwhelming reaction speaks volumes about how audiences feel toward the original story, and how Disney's modern changes just aren't sitting well with everyone. But the Daily Wire wasn't just focused on casting. A classic-looking Snow White co-founder, Jeremy Boring, didn't hold back when slamming Disney for straying too far from the original fairy tale. He called out Disney's loss of identity, stating that the company has forgotten its roots. According to Boring, Snow White wasn't just another movie. It was the foundation of Disney's empire, the film that started it all. He argued that remaking it with a completely different vision is nothing short of disrespectful to Walt Disney's legacy. Boring emphasized that Walt Disney saw Snow White as the perfect fairy tale for children, a vision that he believes the Walt live-action remake completely ignores. Meanwhile, the Daily Wire's version of Snow White and the Evil Queen promises to bring back the timeless values that made the original a cherished classic. Instead of a forced modern take, their version will focus on friendship, kindness, and yes, even romance, all the elements that made Snow White a beloved story for generations.
Story at all, which is really, really wonderful. And whether or not she finds love along the way is anybody's guess until 2024. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby. But it's one of those things. So true. It's an inner journey that she goes on to find her true self, and she meets a lot of people along the way that make the journey really incredible.
Rachel Zegler's portrayal of Snow White isn't exactly what the royal fanbase of the classic tale wanted. Her candid criticism of the original movie's themes, calling its focus on love and passivity outdated, hasn't done her any favors. Fans see her interpretation as dismissive of the very charm and magic that made Snow White an enduring fairy tale for generations. When Zegler boldly declared, "It's not 1937 anymore," she effectively drew a line in the sand, signaling that Disney's new Snow White wouldn't be focused on true love or relying on a prince for a happily ever after. While Zegler sees this as progress, many fans feel that Disney is stripping away the very essence of the story, erasing the romantic, hopeful themes that made Snow White so enchanting in the first place. But the decision to sideline the prince wasn't the only controversy Disney stirred up. When it was revealed that Snow White's iconic 7 dwarfs would be replaced by a diverse cast of magical creatures, fans were baffled. Suddenly, the simple, lovable dwarfs, so deeply tied to the original tale, were transformed into mystical beings with no direct connection to the classic story. For many Disney loyalists, this was the final straw. It reinforced the growing belief that the studio was prioritizing modernization over preserving the heart of the original fairy tale. And to them, that felt like a betrayal. Intro on the other side of the spectrum. Brett Cooper's Snow White embraces a very different philosophy. Rather than deconstructing the classic tale, her version leans into nostalgia and stays faithful to the original story. Cooper even shared a video reacting to fans' excitement, highlighting how the Daily Wire's project aims to be propaganda-free. The team behind Snow White and the Evil Queen is committed to honoring the Brothers Grimm tale as authentically as possible. Cooper has addressed fans' concerns about the project, making it clear that this isn't about pushing a political statement, it's about staying true to the essence of the original fairy tale. Her background as a YouTuber also adds to her appeal, especially among audiences who feel disillusioned with Disney's recent direction. Known for her social and cultural commentary, Cooper brings her fanbase along for the ride, positioning herself as a Snow White who actually resonates with today's cultural climate. In her video, she even responded to YouTuber Ryan Keneal's remarks about audiences wanting propaganda-free content. Her response was a breath of fresh air for fans frustrated with Disney's approach, as she assured them that this new Snow White isn't designed to push an agenda, just to tell the story as it was meant to be told. Intro Rachel Zegler is nearly breaking down over the news that Brett Cooper is set to give her serious competition on the big screen as Snow White, and her reaction is priceless. She was already frustrated with fans, and now, with Cooper's version gaining public attention, things have only gotten worse. Meanwhile, Brett Cooper, who is being seen as a better and more respectful Snow White, is quickly becoming the preferred choice among audiences. In contrast, Rachel continues to lash out at fans, accusing them of various negative and even profane things. Zegler's casting as Snow White was already met with major backlash, and according to her, it's all due to bigotry. She hasn't hesitated to call out her critics, claiming that they just can't handle a Colombian actress playing the role. However, she also offered a bizarre explanation about how the new version of Snow White isn't about appearance at all. Instead, the name Snow White comes from her surviving a brutal snowstorm as a baby. But the way she has explained the movie has left many people confused, making it sound stranger than ever. That makes the journey sound incredible. But that's not where the controversy ends. Zegler made it clear that the new Snow White won't be the same love-struck girl waiting around for Prince Charming to sweep her off her feet. Nope. This version of Snow White is all about strength, independence, and standing up for herself. She even threw shade at the original 1937 Disney prince, calling him a guy who literally stalks Snow White, a statement that didn't sit well with longtime Disney fans. From day one, Zegler's casting faced backlash, with critics arguing that Snow White should remain a character with skin as white as snow.